Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Friends, family in Christ, a lot to get to today. Let's jump right in with our guest, Brandon Holthaus from Southern California. Now, I want to give you his website, BrandonHolthaus.com. Also over on YouTube, you can look up Brandon Holthaus Ministries. And he's got a book, Eternal Crowns, Ruling and Reigning with Messiah. So, brother, thank you so much for taking the time to lock in with us today. Let's do this.
My pleasure. Good to be with you, David.
Yes, thanks, brother. So much to talk about. And I really, like I said before we got on, I appreciate your voice and all that you're doing, from going over and helping the IDF and your pro Bible prophecy and Israel and church engagement in our culture. And that's one of the most disappointing things in this season that we're in. So could you just start right there, and how the church, there's so many, since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, what's happening in Iran, the lawlessness in Minnesota, there's so many opportunities for the church to be a voice and speak up and be a light. Just talk about why that's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I call it the sin of silence, David, and it's on all the issues, whether we're talking about Israel or we're talking about crazy bills that California is passing that you take away parental rights. But here's the recent thing that I've encountered, and this shocks me and this makes me upset. There's massive persecution going on in third world countries of Christians, primarily Nigeria. And in Nigeria, I talked to one of the main guys that's trying to help the Nigerian Christians and their Judge Saul of Equipping the Persecuted. That's his organization's name. And he tells me that 35 Nigerian Christians are being killed by Muslims daily. And so we're trying to get the word out. We're trying to raise money to help him, and we're doing our part. But then you know what Judge told me? He told me that he had approached a lot of mega churches to get help and solicit help, and that they would put this in front of their congregation, let them know that their brothers and sisters are being killed, and to raise money for them for protection and whatnot. And then he went to Christian musicians and did the same thing. And guess what their response was? They didn't want anything to do with it. In fact, what he told me what the megachurches said. They told him, one megachurch told him, said, well, that upsets Becky. And he goes, who's Becky? And he goes, Becky is the prototypical mother of two that comes to our church, and she doesn't want to hear anything that upsets her. So telling the congregation that Christians are getting killed would upset so-called Becky.
Wow.
And that's why they said they didn't want to even talk about it. David, I'm out of my mind thinking, what happened to the church that doesn't even want to talk about Christian persecution, for goodness sake?
Yeah, give me the book, chapter, and verse on that, where we're not supposed to talk about these issues. It's not surprising, I guess, knowing the state of the American church, but it's very disappointing. And church leaders will answer to God. They will stand before God. They were going to incur a stricter judgment. And that's just so sad, Brandon. By the way, Nigeria, where's Black Lives Matter?
Exactly. Where's all the women's lib? Where's Black Lives Matter with these Nigerians? 35 a day, David. 35 a day. It's a slaughterhouse. And the Nigerian government is covering everything up. They're pretending this is not happening. And why? Because I can tell you why. The narrative it's Islamic. And they do not want to badmouth Islam in not only the media, but in politics and around the world. And here's the interesting thing, David. As an example of protecting Islam, I was in Australia with remnant believers just last week. And obviously the Bondi Beach massacre happened when two Islamic guys killed the Jewish people celebrating Hanukkah. Do you know what Anthony Albanese did from the Prime Minister's office in Australia? He comes out with a hate speech law against preachers. So do the math. Wow. How does Islamic guys kill Jews and Australia targets Christian preachers? I don't know how that happens. But again, it's part of the same narrative we're seeing all through the West, David.
How about Isaiah 5:20? Right there,
totally.
There's one. Yeah. So let's briefly go over to Iran, because you mentioned the slaughter of Christians and just citizens, people in Nigeria. Well, I just got another email. We're hearing a lot of this, at least from conservative outlets or Christian outlets. The mainstream media punted on this. They're so irresponsible and biased and propaganda-driven. But we can help the persecuted Christians in Iran. We know there's a slaughter going on there right now. Some leftist outlets are covering this, but very few. But we forget there's an underground church there. There are believers there that are suffering. And another opportunity for the church in America to speak up and speak light and truth into this. Go ahead and share whatever you'd like about Iran and what's going on there.
Oh, David, the numbers are astounding. The last numbers I heard, there's over a million Christians at least that they know are underground. And here's the interesting thing about this. How did the gospel get to these people in a Muslim-controlled, Shia-controlled area that's very tight and doesn't allow Christianity to exist, really? It came through dreams and visions. It's the third most way people in Iran are getting saved is through dreams and visions of the Messiah. And they get saved. And so this underground movement is right there. But the problem is it's Shia Islam, and they're being put down, so they have to be underground. And so this is my thing on a geopolitical level. I want regime change in Iran, because that's what the Shia Islamic state is doing to Christians there. It's massive persecution. And now, we're hearing all these reports of people getting killed, just regular Iranians, but Christians are being lumped in this as well and being killed. And hey, man, we're drawing some red lines. I think we need to pony up and do something about this. These guys are not to be trusted. They're not only going to attack Israel, and they've proven they'll attack Israel, but these guys won't stop enriching uranium. And so Trump has made a red line, but I wish Trump would make a red line saying, you got to stop killing Christians and just Iranian people, or else we'll do something. I understand we're sending a fleet over there, but something's got to stop this. This is ridiculous. And we've got to report this. Why am I not hearing this on just regular media?
I don't, well, there's the spirit of delusion. There's other things, other factors going on, but I don't get it either, because isn't that a human rights issue? We're not talking about politics, right?
Right. It has nothing to do with politics. But when it comes to Christian persecution, they just don't want to report on it. Yeah. And especially, again, here's the other narrative. It's Islamic. And so we don't want to paint Islamic into, being a bad religion. Look, hey, man, I'm done with that. 80% of persecution that's happening in the world is from Islam. That's the reality. That's the facts. And Open Doors website has all the stats on that. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry if that upsets the narrative about Islam being a religion of peace. I'm sorry, don't buy it anymore.
Pastor Brandon, I do want to get to Trump's Board of Peace and just share your thoughts on that and help us understand a little bit more about that. But before we do, I think there's another thing in play, and that's the red-green axis, which is very interesting here. You've got the communists and the Islamists, strange bedfellows, but teaming up. It seems to be a spirit of the Antichrist. But talk to us a little bit about what you see and what you understand and happening there.
David, that's exactly what's happening. Trevor Loudon is the first one I think that came out with this concept, and it's proven itself. That's what's happening in Minnesota. That's what's happening in America. That's why they got the Venezuela guy Maduro out of there, because there was a communist takeover trying to take over the entire West here, and using Islam as the battering ram to destroy the West, destroy Christianity, and destroy the Jews. That's what's happening in the UK. That's what's happening in Australia and here in America. But that is legit, man. And so this is a weird combination. But yet we see the combination, David, culminate in one person, with Mamdani being elected the mayor of New York, our financial capital. And the guy is a self-avowed communist and an Islamist who wants worldwide jihad. Or intifada, I mean. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's not even hiding. And then I start finding out in your neck of the woods, in Minnesota area, that some of these guys from Newsmax revealed that some of these organizations are actually funding the protesters in Minnesota and they have socialistic, Marxist, communistic ties.
Yeah.
It's right there in front of us, and people don't want to see what's staring in front of them. We have the red-green axis to destroy the West.
Yep. And this has been brewing for a long time, even before Islam was more, influential here in America, and mosques started going up in even red states. Very briefly, I don't want to get off track, but in 2010, when our governor, Scott Walker, was being recalled, there were these massive protests at the Madison state capitol, the Wisconsin state capitol in Madison. There were tables set up for the Socialist Party USA. We had teachers' unions and then their teachers in classrooms, leaving school, and they're putting up the communist fist, solidarity, right? This was all happening right here in Wisconsin, and that was all pro-socialism, pro-communism, or at least communist policy, because you don't have to label everybody a communist, but if they're supporting certain policies, let's call it out. But we're seeing even more brewing across the country, particularly in blue states, but not limited to blue states or cities. Since we're talking about this area now in Minnesota, let's talk briefly about, I just read this headline. Now, this is days old now, but Pam Bondi and federal officials have made at least 3 arrests in connection with a protest that disrupted a Sunday morning service, a church service in St. Paul. And she said clearly on social media, many messages they put out, praise God for the Trump administration and what they're doing. But she said, listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship. Brandon, do you think this is going to spread? Did that send a message? Are we going to see more of this?
Well, my thing is yes, because this is not a grassroots organization. This is well coordinated, and now I can't remember the guy, Clay Rigby or something like that from Newsmax, busted loose and said he went on Signal and found that this was coordinated. They're calling shots of when to raid and when to hinder ICE agents. So now we know it's not a grassroots movement. They had intentionally went into that church because somehow they said that the pastor had some type of ties with ICE, or I don't know. But anyway, they stormed into a church, and Don Lemon is filming the whole thing, and he just acted like he was an accident that he got involved, but yet he is filming and interviewing the pastor. And I want to say, hey, Don Lemon said, well, this is free speech. We can do this. And it's like, no, you can't. The FACE Act of 1994 prevents you. Free speech is not allowed into a church service to you to barge in and do this. Well, my thing is, if they're going to do it this one church, they're going to try to do it at other ones. And this is not over. And I don't understand why this church didn't have security in this day and time, but they should. But this is not over. This is well coordinated. It's for all visual effect. It's so that they want to provoke someone to take action against them. They would like it more than anything to provoke us into violence, and then they get shot or something like that. So I don't think this is over, David.
Yeah. 2 things. You don't see them going into a mosque, A, right? and B, second, do you know of a name or an organization that trains and equips Christian churches for an attack? Like, are you familiar with it? Because that needs to happen across the country at churches to get security. If you do, let me know maybe afterwards, or if you know something now, just share, because pastors, and we need to, since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we're in a different time and season in America. And basically we saw the effect and the reaction of a lot on the left and a lot of demoniacs celebrating the murder of a Christian for just free speech. That we're in an interesting time, aren't we?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And look, there'll be copycats to this. Well, if they can do it, I can do it. But look at this. The other thing that people are not watching about church shootings or just going after people like Charlie Kirk or whatever, there has been a significant amount of transgenders that have shot up Christian schools or churches or whatnot, and no one's paying attention to this. And so they are burying this under the carpet, but there's something going on with the mental illness issues. And then why do we have so many transgender shooting up? The guy who shot Charlie Kirk was protecting so-called his transgender lover or whatever, who was a furry pretending to be a guy or a girl. I can't remember which, but there was all that mixed up into it. And no one wants to talk about that. But there's a tagline watching this as we watch these people taking full shots on Christians.
Yeah, we call Tyler Robinson's lover transgender, but let's back up a little bit. If there are two heterosexual males, or just two males, and they're in a romantic relationship, aren't they gay? But we call the guy transgender. Anyway, we got to take a brief pause. We're with Pastor Brandon Holthaus, and we will be right back on Worldview Matters. Register now for the Worldview Matters Conference May 1st and 2nd in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Expert speakers include Alex Newman, Brianna Clausen, Olivier Melnick, Tim Chafee, Mark and Amber Archer, Laura Perry Smaltz, Jake Jacobs, Jay Siegert, Gary Kaw, Scott Shera, and Elijah Abraham. Delta Hotel, Green Bay, May 1st and 2nd. Go to worldviewmattersconference.com. That's worldviewmattersconference.com. So, Pastor Brandon, before we talk about Trump's Board of Peace, let's stay in Minnesota just for a few more minutes and help me understand the hypocrisy of the left protecting criminals and the media, I guess, either cheering that on or not reporting the truth about what is really happening. And the fact that the Obama administration and Biden, they deported more illegal aliens than Trump. I mean, it's not even close. Help me understand the cover-up of hypocrisy here that we're not seeing and we won't.
Well, I think we have to take a step back, because is anyone in their right mind thinking they're gonna protect a rapist, child molester, criminal, illegal aliens? That's insane. Well, so to me, it seems to be because what we are finding out that this is coordinated effort, and there's two things I want to keep in mind. Number one, the timing of this, when the Minnesota fraud that got unearthed by the Somalis is happening at the same time. So, we have a distraction. At the same thing, Ilhan Omar gets shot in the face with some dude with a syringe of apple cider vinegar or something, and to take the heat off of her, because all of a sudden she goes from rags to riches with $30 million that can't be accounted for. And so you have the timing of this is suspicious. And then at the same time then is, what are you guys trying to do? Are you fomenting an insurrection? Because what observers who have dealt with insurrections are looking at this saying it has all the markers of a color revolution. It's got guys who are marking, they're following license plates. There's coordinated through signal telling the people, hey, ICE agents are in your area, start hindering them. There's a whole coordinated effort going on here. So are we watching really people defend criminal illegals, or is this a color revolution or a distraction from what the Minnesota fraud has done? I'm not sure, but at least I'm gonna hang my hat on those two things.
Yeah. Smokescreen. Yeah. Who knows? There's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't understand. But Christian, back up and understand the root of this. It is a spiritual battle. There is the Holy Spirit and there are demonic spirits, and we are seeing this warfare playing out in real time. We just need to know how to respond, always continue to speak the truth and share the gospel, but we need to know how to respond to some of these things and understand what's going on. So can we transition now, clumsily, maybe, to Trump's Board of Peace? Do you think this is like an attempt to undermine the UN? I know it started with talks of doing something in Gaza, but that really didn't materialize. What can you tell us about this, and is it a good thing?
Well, let's start with this. I don't want to demonize Trump in many ways. I think this is wrong on his part. I like a lot of the other stuff that Trump has done. But the problem is, and you know it, David, when you start dividing the land, you're going against Scripture. You cannot take control of Jewish land. And I get it. You want to get it out of the hands of the international organization. You want to get it out of the hands of Hamas or whoever, the Palestinian Authority. I get that. But we got to give it back to Israel. Israel's got to control their own land, because you can't divide the land. That's against Joel chapter 3 and the land covenant you see along with the Abrahamic covenant in Genesis 15. So the land belongs to Israel. But the problem is Trump sees things from a financial standpoint. He thinks he can run the whole thing better than obviously Hamas or the UN. And I get that. But he's violating that. And I wish he wouldn't. And so when you start looking on this board of peace and who he's got on there, that's another cause of alarm. And that's my secondary problem with it. You've got Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner on there. You have Muslims from other countries on this board of peace. And then you're starting to invite the Pope on there, along with Tony Blair, who's nothing but a globalist.
Oh,
well, holy smokes, this is a potpourri of the people who should not be running Gaza.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's turn to Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff as an example. Those guys have no business in the Middle East because why? They're compromised. Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff have taken millions and millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia and Qatar in their investment firms. And Qatar's bailed out Steve Witkoff's New York place that he went belly up on, and they bought it off for like $650 million. So both guys are compromised by Qatar, who's the leading terrorist funder in the entire planet. And do we really trust Saudi Arabia? Dude, they cut up Khashoggi into pieces when he went against them. So these are some mean dudes. So, and then on the top of it, you're going to invite the Pope? The Pope, are you serious? And he's going to run Gaza. Well, that's exactly what the Catholic Church has been wanting to do all the time. They want to run Israel. They want to run Jerusalem and want to make Jerusalem an international place for all faiths. Well, of course you do. So David, from just the wrongness of Trump trying to control a piece of Israel to let's look at the board members. Holy smokes, this is terrible. This is going to land you into the judgment of God for something like this. And that's what I'm afraid of, because what happens? Bill Koenig did a great book called Eye to Eye, and he chronicled every time you divide the land of Israel, something bad would happen to America, whether it's the economy, a storm, whatever. And he chronicled this.
I remember that.
Yes, and it was a while back. But I'm gonna make the same argument. You mess with Israel and that land grant has been given to the Jewish people, not the United States or anyone else to manage. And then you're going to not expect the Abrahamic foreign policy. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. And then on top of this, David, you're going to make it a technocratic place. You're going to bring in the technocrats, and they're going to make this a technocratic thing. Well, what do you mean? You're going to make this the French Riviera? It's going to be like the new Dubai, and we're going to have the technocrats run this. Wait a second. David, you know about the technocratic agenda. It's globalistic. If you've had Patrick Wood on your show, you know exactly what the technocrats like Sam Altman and all of them want to do. They're basically creating a beast system to control the entire planet. And we're going to have the technocrats run Gaza. We're stair-stepping our way to the beast system through all of this. That's really where it's going, David. And so, boy, howdy, there's a lot of red flags here, man.
Yeah, what could go wrong? Yeah, by the way, I had Patrick Wood on a few weeks ago, and we talked a little bit about that. There's just so much. And I think I said this earlier. Christians, human beings are not meant to know everything, to keep up with everything. But I've always said since what's happened last year, kicking off 2026, I think one of the words of the year for the church is discernment. I think we really need to be discerning and understand the times and know how to respond, like the men of Issachar. So, Brandon, the media is not helping. Where do people get truthful, accurate information? Because just for one example, I follow the Media Research Center, and I just looked at this one study. 93% of coverage by ABC, CBS, and NBC about ICE was negative. 93%. Yes. And the same thing about Trump, same thing about a Republican administration. This has gone on for decades, but now this controlling of the narrative and shaping, not reporting the news, shaping public opinion, we're seeing some of the fruit of that now, aren't we?
Unfortunately, yes. And so, David, my admonition is to people is find the legitimate news sources like your show and other shows that they can trust and get their news from there. Because I can tell you the big problem. The big problem is not just the alphabet media groups. It's social media.
Oh.
The majority of people are getting their information from social media, and most of that is unverified, David.
Yep.
And by the way, what they don't realize that on social media, whether it's X or it's Instagram or it's TikTok or whatever, they have an algorithm that's creating an addiction to you and actually creates stories to make you hostile. So let me explain a little bit how that works.
Sure.
They'll throw up three hostile stories, like polar opposites of someone that would make you just absolutely insanely mad. And then they'll throw in a cat video or a dog rescue. And then they throw back to you another one that just boils your blood. And what they're doing is they're actually getting you hooked on the social media and whipping you up into a frenzy to where you actually will be violent and hostile. And that's actually going on in social media. My admonition, get off of social media. You don't even know what's credible on there anymore because they're doing that to you on purpose. And stop spreading unverified stories.
Yes.
David, I'm losing people in my church because they're listening to crazy Candace Owens and listening to Tucker Carlson give a bunch of nonsense out there, and they believe them rather than their own pastor. And I'm like, what have we not been telling you about Israel? And you want to believe the Mossad killed Charlie? You want to believe Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens that Charlie Kirk was a time traveler? I mean, what are you talking about?
Wow.
And that's because of social media, David. And they're going down rabbit holes, and I'm losing people because of the rabbit holes.
These are excellent points, by the way. And I want to emphasize the fact, I mean, we didn't even talk about AI and how we're seeing stuff that's generated. That's not even, people aren't even behind some of this. But I'm seeing a lot of dog rescue because I love dogs and I have 3. I'm seeing a lot of those come up. And then I see some of the stuff that if I wasn't a Christian and or did not have the spirit and the fruit of self-control, I would be like, looking at the screen, really upset. But, Christians, we have to understand, this is a setup. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for the deception. Brandon, we could do another 2 or 3 shows with you, but thank you. So your book is on Amazon. Is that the best place for people to get Eternal Crowns, by the way?
Yeah, Amazon's probably the best, easiest to get. It's there, and a second volume's coming out, and the rest of the rewards, Eternal Rewards, coming out this spring. So yeah, be looking for that.
Ooh, we're gonna have to have you on and talk about it, brother. Can we do that?
You betcha. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and for all you do.
Betcha.
We'll do it again.
Thanks. You, Dave, for everything. Thanks for being in the fight.
You bet. We will keep fighting the good fight together. Lord willing, we'll make some progress this year. We are here for a reason. Father, thank you so much for guiding the podcast and for, again, equipping the saints, using us for your glory. We so appreciate everything that you're doing in our ministries and Brandon's ministry. So praise you, Lord. Friends, God bless you. And as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.